goals of this oversized that, okay, they can agree? You said, you alluded to it, maybe back channels, consensus, and all of them agree. How do you do this? Maybe 30 seconds, then we can take more questions.
There is an adage that unless the owner of the dog is mad, the dog cannot be mad. So what you see happening in the political space can be controlled by those leaders of those various.
Just tell them to shut down.
What we are facing is to misbehave and allow Tinubu to return. And those who will be unable to escape into exile will go to Kuje. So it's not for any young person to say, if it is not my candidate, it is. No. Some of them are speaking from their comfort zones in Europe, America, and elsewhere in the world. They are not speaking from Nigeria. But the danger will be that if they overstretch those their ambitions of, oh, we know go green, oh, we know go green, like the advert of Bako Bags, their leader will die in detention if there is no consensus. So any of these major gladiators who will not embrace consensus should begin to befriend correctional officers, whether he's going to go to Sokoto or they will even take him to Goza, where Boko Haram will come and raid the prison and kill him. So we should behave ourselves and bury our individual interests.
This is Naija Unfiltered on Symphony TV. My name is Olawale Oluad, and my guest today is Barrister Solomon Dalung. You're welcome. And without further ado, let's dive into our conversation. We have a lot to cover. But first, before we even get into the substantive issue, this raging controversy about a so-called factional chairman, and I use the phrase so-called deliberately, because I've not seen any NWC members with Mr. Nafiu Balagombe, who is alleging that is a factional chairman of the ADC, and that the court should actually declare him as such. Upon which the INEC, relying on the Court of Appeal decision that all the parties should go back to status quo antebellum to decapitate the NWC of ADC. How is it that one member of the NWC of a political party can torpedo what is a joint decision of the entire NWC? How is it possible? You are a seasoned politician.
Yeah, it's only possible in a situation like the one we have in Nigeria, the current political situation. And there's this classical thinker who argue that in an unlawful society, it is illegal to be law-abiding. And I think what is playing out actually here is that we are in a society, a lawless society, where impunity and recklessness determines the behaviors of people. Otherwise, the Supreme Court has categorically defined what is a faction in a political party in Nigeria. And the Supreme Court said that a faction is deemed to exist when members of the National Working Committee of the party are divided into two or more divisions, where it is impossible for members of the party to choose where to place their allegiance. In such a situation, a faction is deemed to have existed. Now, in the situation under review, a former member of the National Working Committee who has resigned, whose resignation has been accepted and acknowledged by the party and INEC, after 4 months, woke up from a slumber and imagined that on the 29th of May, where the transition took place between the old leadership of ADC and the new leadership, that he was supposed to have been the successor. And he was there right seated when the transition took place. He couldn't remember that day. It was 4 months later. So the only available interpretation for a rational and an objective mind is to go with this adage in my village that says, these ants you see dancing on top of the water, he said the drummer is underneath. And the Igbos put it much, much clearer, that the Nze bed dancing by the roadside, the orchestra is in the nearby bush. So the orchestra of this imaginary confusion is in the villa.
So now, you are saying that the people orchestrating this entire saga, you said they're in the villa. Which villa are you referring to, sir?
They are in the forest of Aso Rock,
okay,
the seat of power of Nigeria. And I'm saying this authoritatively because we have seen the chief of staff of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in a well-circulated video that has gone viral, owning up as the mastermind of the confusion. He even proceeded to inform Nigerians that he is funding it. He did not only encourage them, he motivated them and assured them of continuous funding. And such an infamous and ignoble act took place on a day that he was supposed to be celebrating his wife's 50th birthday. And such statements, of course, painted the picture of how how his wife meant to him, and how the type of family he runs. Because on such occasion, people are supposed, to pour encomiums, praises, reflections, thanksgiving. But on that day, he was on a very dangerous mischief of even planning to destroy the democracy, because what he did on that day.
That's the chief of staff.
Gbajabiamila, I don't know whether he's the chief of staff now, but Gbajabiamila, the former Speaker of the House of Representatives, what he did on that day was treacherous. It was an attack on democracy. In sane societies, he should have been in one of the accommodation in Kuje, but because we run a lawless society, he's still enjoying the protection of law with his serene and security guarding him.
Okay, so your party, the ADC, you've gone to court, to the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land.
Well, the leadership of African Democratic Congress went to the Supreme Court challenging the decision of the Court of Appeal. And the appeal which was taken to the Court of Appeal was challenging the jurisdiction of the Federal High Court to entertain inter-party affairs or matters. Now, the appeal now before the Supreme Court is to determine whether the Federal High Court have jurisdiction to entertain the matter it has entertained. And the argument of the lawyers of ADC is to the effect that the Supreme Court was reminded with all the cases it has decided that the courts have no jurisdiction in entertaining this matter. We put this before the Supreme Court. And even decisions of other lower courts that had now enforced this decision of the Supreme Court because we run a hierarchical, a pyramidal hierarchy of courts. Decisions of the highest court binds the lower ones. So that is our argument. That this matter should have not even come before you in the first place if our judicial system was healthy and practicing the law, because you have decided it. But since it has come again, we are reminding you. So that is the issue before the Supreme Court, and it's for the Lord, my Lord Justice to decide. There is nothing in Nigeria that is going to surprise me. Having been born after independence, shortly after independence in this country, and I've been able to witness all that has happened to the Nigerian state, both positively and negatively. I saw the Civil War as a young person. I was trained to take cover in trenches as a young person, trenches that were deeper than me twice. So during the Civil War. So at that point, one should know that at least I've been able to see it all. So I will not be surprised. But the justices are human beings living in Nigeria. And the courts are not insulated from the reality of the Nigerian state. Therefore, I do not think that the justices will ignore or downplay the reality of the situation.
Or the enormity of the situation.
Yes, it's quite volatile. It's quite volatile. And they have a role to play in dousing the tension. And I believe that my laws will live up to the responsibility.
Fantastic. Okay, let's pivot to something that is equally more important, which is the Ibadan Summit. The who's in Nigerian political space, although in opposition, were gathered at the ancient city. The who's, like I said, were gathered there, and a lot of deliberations, important outcomes were arrived at. Give us a general sense of, you were there, I saw you. You know, what motivated that gathering and the decisions taken? Give us a sense of it, briefly.
You see, the Ibadan National Opposition Summit was a thought that was conceived within a very short time and implemented. And the efficacy in the organization and the turnout of the opposition political elements in Ibadan, to me, sends a very strong message to anybody in Nigeria that it is going to be business unusual. People have not seen in a long time. We met in Ibadan. People ordinarily, which we could not agree because of political differences, agreed with me that there is a need to narrow our political differences and face the larger challenge. A monster has emerged on the political stage. And you see, I like speaking like an African. In a tarot, there's a tarot adage that says, it will require community effort to kill a mad dog. Otherwise, it's going to bite everybody. So everybody in the community is coming up, ganging up to kill the dog, not because they love themselves, but there is a common threat to every one of them. And I think the instinct of most of the people that gather resonate with the fact that, look, we need to do something fast before it's too late. So the resolutions were quite amazing. They were not even contentious. There were no opposing debates to most of the issues. Rather, the contributions were even amending the issues to be more comprehensive enough to deal with the challenges. And I watched with a lot of interest what happened in Ibadan. Of most of the decisions that were taken, the one that was quite interesting to me was the consensus of producing a single presidential candidate on behalf of the opposition parties. And the opposition parties considered and even proceeded to provide an insight to plan B and C. Because there were some political parties that came up and said, we might end up being frustrated in our expectation of the courts, and we must think beyond the courts. And as I'm telling you, a lot of back channel protocols are being deployed to try to deal with all relevant legal issues that will require participation in the election, and where we will finally birth the idea of challenging. But the take from Ibadan Summit is that whether President Bola Ahmed Tinubu likes it or not, he might have not only the governors, he could go around the whole world and recruit all the marabouts. He is not going to contest, he's not going to be allowed to imagine that he's going to contest the election alone.
Governor Seyi Makinde, the host governor, made some remarks, but then one that became highly controversial was when he reminded everybody, but specifically the APC, the ruling APC and the government at the center, that the way the government is carrying on, the political party APC is carrying on, is reminiscent, very dark foreboding of the 1965 Operation Wettier that happened in Western region, especially in Ibadan. Now, before the words even finished coming out of his mouth, the APC people pounced on him, the government people pounced on him that, he's making inciting, insightful statements, the security agency investigates him. In fact, he should be impeached. What do you say to this?
When you hear government budgeting for acquisition of arms, armed robbers and the robbers in government are going to start yelling and shouting. What Makinde did, Governor Makinde only proved that, he is a typical Yoruba with the sense of history and historical narration. That was all he did. And that he was too honest to a fault to tell the truth. So the man who reminded people gathered in the hospital that this place is called ICU cannot be blamed for the death of the person. I agreed with everything Makinde said. This is a very good reminder, because if we forget history, we'll be tempted to repeat it. Worst. Makinde was only telling this government of injustice and impunity that do not imagine what you are doing to be strange. It has happened before. And these same Nigerians you are seeing dancing with you and saying, Emologo, did the same thing in the past. But when it was clear for them that they were not going to, their democracy was not going to survive, their survival was also not assured, they were forced to act. That they are the same people, they have not changed, there are no new pastors, no new imams that have changed them from who they are, except you change your method. So what has Makinde did wrong? And he spoke in the place where it happened. If he has made that statement elsewhere, you would have said, okay, it's on a mischief, trying to instigate people. But it's natural for any true son of Yoruba to stand in Ibadan on an occasion to make certain he will definitely say those things that Makinde said to remind the people. Ibadan is a historical city that has played a key role in the redefinition of the Nigerian political history. It cannot be denied. So I want to thank Makinde for it, because he also even reminded me. His statement rose consciousness in me that, look, a time is coming if we don't checkmate Tinubu, I may be sad blessed, because Makinde did not point it at those who will be the victims of waiting, but he raised an awareness among the political class that you have misbehaved for too long. And if you do not call yourself to order, danger is likely going to come. So what is wrong in what they said?
The president, during the Nigerian Revenue Service headquarters building commissioning, said, oh, he was bantering with the Senate president. He said, oh, Senate president, I thank you. I will send you to the other side. You go and represent me. And then you scatter them. And I was like, wow, Mr. President. I was saying that to myself, watching that. At that level, there are some things you don't say, even if it's in jest. Because your people, your errand boys, your foot soldiers, when they hear it, they will not understand it as jest. They will take it serious. Sir, 3 days after, you referenced it. This president's chief of staff, Fela Gbajabiamila, was in Leke Abejide's party for the wife. And he repeated exactly the same thing. In fact, directly telling Leke Abejide, don't leave ADC, stay there. We love what you are doing. We will support you. Destroy them, scatter them. Is that not the reason why? Is Seyi Makinde out of order for saying, if you scatter opposition elements, you are creating room for anarchy? Help Nigerians to understand this.
You know, Governor Seyi Makinde is a gentleman. He speaks very softly and slowly. But his statements are very, very weighty. He's a very organized speaker.
He's an engineer, so they are...
So he's a very organized speaker. And his choice of words are also very, very amazing. Makinde, you know, why Makinde's statement is so offensive to them? It's like you have people eating in the dark and pretending to be meeting, and then somebody light a torchlight.
To expose them.
Yes. So they will not forgive him. That's why they are very, very angry with Makinde. But they have done worse thing than what Makinde said. But as to why would people at such status make such statements? I'm a scholar of a very great revolutionary musician, the legend, Baba Idame, Fela and Kuti. You know, that great philosopher did not leave us in doubt. He addressed every Nigerian political situation. And he said to people like the ones we are having are called vagabonds in power. He's only a vagabond that will not be mindful of his statement as a leader in charge of a state that has a population of over 240 million. In fact, there are protocols of communication that leaders are trained when they assume office. But that can only be possible with leaders who want to govern their people. But people on self-seeking ambition, like President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, cannot be trained by anybody. But Ahmed Tinubu sees himself as he knows everything. If you listen to when he speaks with a lot of arrogance and pride, as if there is no any other person that exists in Nigeria except him. He sees himself and his family as people who have conquered Nigeria. But you see, why Nigerians, when he exhibits those characters, Nigerians are not bothered because we are a cultural society. Everybody comes from a family. If you choose to misbehave, that is one thing that guides your conscience: the defense of your family name, the contribution of your ancestors. into the society and the Nigerian state will always serve as a reminder. So,
to moderate you, your conduct, your utterances and everything.
Yes, yes. So when you find people in public space exhibiting some of these very negative tendencies, interrogate whether in their consciences there is this wish that will safeguard their thought as to what they should defend. Do they have a family name to defend? Like me, I'm always mindful of anything I do. Even as I'm speaking to you, if you know my grandfather, you will know that what I'm telling you now, he will say exactly the same thing. And I cherish the name, I guide the name jealously, because that's the highest asset I have to bequeath
Exactly.
to the progeny. So, we are in a deep crisis because those who do not have a history of a cultural orientation and identity will always behave like what Fela referred to as vagabonds in power.
Very, very damning statement, Barrister. Let's go back to this single ticket, presidential ticket. One of the major outcomes, if not perhaps the single major outcome from that Ibadan Summit is that all the parties gathered there, even though we've now seen one or two coming to say, no, we didn't send our representatives there to do anything, but let's agree that that's the outcome, to field a single presidential candidate. First, Barrister, how is it going to happen? And then you have this heavyweight presidential aspirant, former Vice President Atiku, who has contested 5 times. He didn't win. You have Peter Obi, who did very well last time, 2023. Did impressive, without much time to plan. He did very well. Rotimi Amechi, former governor, former minister, also laying claim, to being the candidate. Kwankwaso has not particularly expressed, but you have all this. How is this going to happen without rupturing the fragile? Because the coalition is fragile. There's so much fragility about it. How is this consensus ticket going to happen? Briefly.
Let me address those who have disassociated themselves from the Ibadan Convention, Ibadan Summit. They refer to themselves as factions. Okay. And they call themselves their real names. It was not a gathering of factions. It was a gathering of 10 political parties. And the chairman of those political parties, those who never made it, sent representation. So if they are factions, and they are still struggling to be recognized as the party, we didn't call a national summit of opposition or factional opposition parties. No, we call the leadership that we know.
Yes.
And therefore, disassociating themselves also proceed to define their character. Because they have been trying to destroy opposition parties in Nigeria, but they failed. So they've come out now to say, oh, we are undertakers of a dirty job. We did not include them, and they were not part of Ibadan Summit. They can now go and call their own national factional opposition party summit in Bondelion in Lagos. You can call it there. In Bondelion in Lagos. Sorry, in Bondelion in Lagos. They can call it there. Or they can go to the office of the chief of staff of the president, who had came out to honor that is the financier. They can go and hold their own there.
We even said they should bring their nephew Bala.
Yes. So you can hold it in his house, anywhere, and then they will say, oh, they are disassociating. That would have been much, much better for the statement they have made. But for Nigerians, we had a successful meeting as to how are we going to go about it. I just want to assure Nigerians that if all these big names were seated there, and none of them oppose the idea, none of them said no to the statement of most of the speakers who said the summit is about Nigeria and not individual interests. And they subsequently did not issue statements because they are very proactive on the social media. Those very big names with a presidential interest, that they did not disown the resolution of Ibadan Summit speaks volumes for what the opposition parties are up to. So I want to assure Nigerians that as we are talking now, a lot of work is going on to try to address these issues and see how we will come up with a common interest. What is important to the opposition movement now is something which Tarok people again said: drive the hyena into the bush before you will come back and blame the God. Mr. God, Mrs. God, or Mr. God, why are you walking in the night when the hyena is also outside?
These heavyweight opposition politicians that I mentioned, that want to vie for the single ticket of the ADC, how is the leadership of ADC able to manage? These are, powerful politicians with very oversized egos, huge egos. Some of them, they are followers, like the Obedience, who are Peter Obi's die-hard, fanatical supporters. They have said it is Peter Obi or nothing. That is their way or the highway. They even launched they waxed a song. I saw them release a song telling Atiku, former vice president, step down, it's not your time, you're too old. Before I could say Jack, articulators too release their own song, countering them. How do you manage the egos of these oversized that, okay, they can agree? You alluded to it, maybe back channels, consensus, and all of them agree. How do you do this? Maybe 30 seconds, then we can take more questions.
But in the same Tarok land where I came from.
Is there a book on Tarok language? Because I think I need to get these proverbs.
Yeah, there is an adage that unless the owner of the dog is mad, the dog cannot be mad. So what you see happening in the political space can be controlled by those leaders of those various.
Just tell them to shut down.
What we are facing is to misbehave and allow Tinubu to return. And those who will be unable to escape into exile will go to Kuje. Because this unimplemented 2026 budget, Tinubu is going to send an amendment for the expansion of facilities in Kuje prison.
Correctional facilities?
Yes, the correctional facilities. Because
who?
Oh!
Terrorists and bandits?
No. Terrorists and bandits are not his challenge now. Those he can call terrorists and bandits now that are the opposition element. So he's going to capture all of us and keep there if he has the breathing space of coming back. So it's not for any young person to say, if it is not my candidate, it is. No. Some of them are speaking from their comfort zones in Europe, America, and elsewhere in the world. They are not speaking from Nigeria. But the danger will be that if they overstretch their ambitions of, we no go green, we no go green, like the advert of Backlash, their leader will die in detention if there is no consensus. So any of these major gladiators who will not embrace consensus should begin to befriend correctional officers. Whether he's going to go to Sokoto or they will even take him to Goza, where Boko Haram will come and raid the prison and kill him. So we should behave ourselves and bury our individual interests and look at the country.
The bigger picture.
Let me tell you, even if the coalition works over, say Solomon Dalung should be the candidate, the opposition party should first win the election before, because winning the election and helping Tinubu at least to retire to France
No, I thought it's Bodilon.
No, Bodilon is not going to be where he will stay. Tinubu's greatest fear is where he will live after leaving power. So once that is accomplished, we can come back and build, unite, redesign, and try to build a country where the younger ones now will be trained to succeed us. How many years am I going to live?
Are there any talks about whoever gets the ticket now doing just one term? I've heard whispers like that. Can you confirm that?
No, those are just political permutation of politicians.
Because that's part of how to manage this issue.
Yeah, politicians they can put anything on the card that will help victory.
In terms of negotiation.
Yes, in terms of negotiation. But if we have a president, whether elected from Sambisa, and he spent 1 year and behave like Paul Kagame of Rwanda. If you talk about Chenua, Nigerians will burn your house. Go and read the history of Park Suk, who transformed South Korea into an industrialized nation. He spent 18 years. It was good leadership. As at the time he took over South Korea, when I went to South Korea, my friend showed me his picture when he was in the medical school. He's a medical doctor. He was wearing only boxers and going to school naked. And he said they were eating from the dustbin. So, when you have a good leader who is doing justice, which Nigerians are yearning for, nobody is going to talk of where you are coming from. Nobody is going to talk about your tribe. Nobody is going to talk about your religion, because justice has no religion, it has no tribe, it has no identity except justice. So, but this is being put on the table to try to assuage the feelings of marginalization, exclusion, that an injustice that we have been promoting in this country for too long.
We've spoke briefly about Professor Joash Amikuta, INEC Chairman, before. I want to ask you directly. There are calls from your party, from everybody in opposition, calling for him to resign. Because obviously the person who appointed him, the appointer, Mr. President Bola Tinubu, will not remove him. And it goes even beyond Mr. Tinubu, because even the National Assembly, there's a requirement for 2/3. They probably will not support his removal. Should he resign or not? You know him very well. He was your former teacher and colleague. What do you think? Should he resign or not?
Is it to be very honest and fair to Professor Joash Amikuta? The only option open to him now is to throw the towel.
Throw in the towel?
Yes, should throw. But if he is cajoled to continue, the consequences of him being there is going to be overwhelming, that at the end of the day, he will regret even taking the appointment. The issues of integrity revolving around him now are not only national question. They had international or global impact and implications. There are cameras of different nations and different interests revolving around him. And one thing he must remember is that the electoral institution is a global institution. It's not a national institution. That's where the funding of elections come from all over
EU
the
and
world.
the rest of
All over the world.
And they have monitors.
Very good. They have monitors because of their interest in the core values of democracy. And the core values of a democracy includes integrity, which he has lacked. Why did I say this? The chairman of INEC in Nigeria, based on Nigerian constitution, should be somebody who has no political affiliation or appellation.
Someone who is not partisan.
Partisan. Joash Amikuta is an APC member. Even though he might not be a card-carrying member, but there are transactions that he was involved in that has strong affiliation with APC. You look at how INEC has even mismanaged the issue of his Twitter handle. I was so embarrassed by what INEC did. How can INEC conduct a forensic investigation of itself? It didn't even hire external forensic experts. They could have gone to appoint people of their choice, guided experts. That would have looked even more neat. That they do not even have the wisdom of thinking of bringing external expert tells you how porous and bankrupt the leadership of what is referred to as INEC today. Because if the lawyers that are there advise them, which I know they would have done, but they will not listen. And if they do not listen, that is the type of people we have there. They should have appointed somebody from outside. So that they can smoke screen. But they went in and an in-house investigation, investigating themselves, being a judge, witness, a prosecutor in your own case. That's too shameful. So at the end of the day, that issue, how are you going to deal with it? Nigerians, young Nigerians, whom I'm so proud of them, we have one of the best brains in young Nigerians. When he was denying, not my account, they want to prove to Amopitan that, oh, you are a moron. They went, opened an account with the phone number which AI downloaded from a CV submitted by Amopitan for his screening in the National Assembly. And they opened an OPay account and asked Nigerians to pay 10 naira. Once you pay 10 naira, Judge Amopitan will appear. I have not confirmed that so far there is about 10 million in that account. Now, EFCC must investigate that account. So you can see the dimensional approach this issue is taking. EFCC must investigate that OPay account, which young Nigerians opened, and there is about 10 million in it. Who owns it? And at the end of the day, Amopitan will be jumping from one scandal to the other. And the little legacies he would have left for his children is going, his name is going to be tarnished so much that it will be difficult for even his children to live in this country. So the best for him is this job of an undertaker is not for somebody like me. You should quit.
Brilliant. Switching gears, the president, again, at that event of the National Nigerian Revenue Service building, where they were commissioning it and bantering with each other, he said anybody who is not, people like you, who are saying he has not achieved anything, that he cannot see his administration's achievements, you should borrow eyeglasses to wear. How do you respond to that?
What Tinubu was actually saying at that particular place was that he was overwhelmed by the fact that they have built a new house of how they would emasculate the remaining lives in Nigeria through emasculate lives out of Nigerians through taxes. So he was overwhelmed by it, and he made that statement.
Do you have a problem with the building?
No, I don't know. Oh no, very, very massive. It is a very good building for a tax collector like Tinubu. For me, that should have not been my priority. If I'm the president of Nigeria, in fact, the tax office could have been even under the tree. But the most important thing is those who are paying the tax, are they living well? That would have been our interest. But for the borrowing of glasses, Tinubu was just mocking herself, because what Tinubu did was to take his picture and put on the ground and start insulting his very picture. Nobody needs glasses and even needs brain more than Tinubu. I think my reply to him is that he should remove that cap that has a handcuff, which has handcuffed his reasoning, so that he can think properly and govern this country. It's not an issue of glasses, it's an issue of the brain.
So you don't agree that he has achieved? Because they have done a lot, you have achieved.
No, to be very honest, let me tell you. I always celebrate Tinubu for his achievement. Tinubu has achieved a lot for himself. So when he said he has achieved a lot, people should know what he's saying. You take a look at his picture before he became a president. He was somebody that like he was going to die the following day. Today you can see him walking, sometimes being helped by the president of Turkey and the king in England. He has recorded achievement. He has bought for himself an Airbus that has been customized as president of Nigeria. He has bought a Cadillac that is also customized. He has renovated all the presidential houses in Lagos and Abuja. He has installed solar in the villa and disconnected from the national grid.
And left people. You people to your device.
Yes. He has also bought SUVs for his wife and the National Assembly. He has bought a yacht worth about $7 million. He is also going, his son is also going about with the City Boys movement, sharing noodles to people, for God's sake. And he has awarded a contract of 17 trillion to his bosom friend, the Shagoris, Gbajabiamila. If you look at this thing, are this another achievement? Please. The achievement that Tinubu has achieved as a person, he has transformed himself and his family. His wife goes around doling out billions to states. And this was the same woman who stood in the church to tell Nigerians that, oh, we have our money already. We are going into the presidency to serve. Can Remi tell Nigerians honestly, where did she get the billions she's going about sharing? So if Tinubu said we cannot see his achievement, it's correct. Because they are personal achievement. He has transformed himself, his wife, his children. So they have achieved a lot within 3.5 years. But for Nigeria, I mean, it's also an achievement because he has borrowed over 100 trillion. More than what Nigeria borrowed from 1960 to 2023. That's a very great achievement. Where do you see Nigeria resembling 100 trillion? Even in this room where we are I'm granting this interview, look at your efforts in mobilizing light. In a normal situation, do you need this light? You only need some small light to brighten. But you could see the effort. And if we don't round up this interview very soon, this light will go off because we are not sure of what is coming from the national grid. So please, congratulations, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the chief priest of Imiloko. You have achieved so much for yourself and your family.
Nigeria, as we speak here, Nigeria is now currently ranked 4th most terrorized state on the global terrorist index. You know, my question, of course, you remember Kwara State, some parts of Kwara State, some communities have been abandoned. Even in Benue, in Plateau, Borno, local governments, Katsina, the people there have fled. They've abandoned the place because of fear of terrorists and insurgents. Has the government abandoned the people?
The Imiloko philosophy means it is my turn. And my turn can be interpreted broader to means it is about me. Insecurity to Tinubu means the only time Tinubu faced insecurity in his life, in his tenure as a president, was in Kaduna when somebody was advancing and he has to. That was understanding of Tinubu insecurity, not Nigerians dying. You can report the figures of Nigerians dying 10 times. It doesn't bother Tinubu. That's why when they asked him during his maiden presidential broadcast, Nigerians are suffering from your policy, economic policy. And he said he does not regret. So try to understand the psychology of the man called Tinubu.
But he went to Jos to commiserate to them in Plateau State.
No.
Like 2-3 weeks ago.
Tinubu went to the airport.
Okay.
He didn't. He went to the airport. Yes, and he locked himself up in the airport there, and then they ferried victims to him, which is first against our tradition. You don't move a mourning person outside his home to commensurate with him. Let me come back to these figures. These figures you are flaunting. Let me come back to the statistics. All these figures you mentioned did not reflect what the number of people that have been killed in Plateau. In Plateau, people have been killed in numbers. Wow. But they are unreported. Wow. In fact, the press may report incidences, but the true numbers have not been put before the public. Now, we thought that with Governor Mutfwang defecting to APC, we may get attention. But that has turned out to be the nightmare of Plateau people. The governor now is even looking hopeless. Because even when he was a PDP governor, he used to visit some of these places. But he has changed tactics, which means he is even not secure in the party he went to. Because for the first time, we saw him visiting an attack that happened in the center of Jos, but in an armored town, APC. There were attacks in villages, in Locust, when he was in PDP. He went there. But this one inside Jos, and he was hiding. So, the issue of insecurity, Nigerians should stop deceiving themselves. The definition of insecurity under the APC government means any threat to the interests of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu or his officials is called insecurity. An attack on any Nigerian community is called normal situation.
This is weighty. The Senate President is fond of making very, very weighty comments. Because last week he made a comment at that event that it is you politicians that are sponsoring this, crime, this insecurity. And that immediately after 2027 elections, insecurity would end after 2 weeks. Can you respond to this in 1 minute, Barrister?
I think he involuntarily confessed. Yeah. Because what Akpabio was telling Nigerians, that those killing you, we are the ones financing them. Because I didn't see where he exonerated himself from being politician. So he's only telling, when somebody is there's this issue of conscience being raptured publicly. So it overwhelmed his consciousness. Because his brain cannot carry the number of people they have put money and they have killed. So that's what is called in psychology the involuntary escape from the subconscious mind.
Freudian sleep.
Very good. That's it. The involuntary escape from the subconscious mind. That was what happened to Akpabio. He was only telling Nigerians, we have been putting so much money in the killing you people. And we are doing this because of this election, because with 36 governors, with all the monies, with everything, we are not too sure of winning. But it will be over after election. So it's self-confession. Because he didn't mention any politician name. He didn't even exonerate himself. He didn't show letter of resignation that he's no more a politician. So, like I said before, it is only the Agama lizard that will announce the death of the crocodile because he's the latest visitor from the sea.
As we wind down completely now, give us your dream tickets. Don't be straightforward with Nigerians. Give us your dream tickets. The ticket that you know that can actually give President Bola Ahmed Tinubu a run for all the money he has acquired, if at all he has, that can give him sleepless nights, even on the day of election. Give us your dream ticket. Mentioned.
My dream ticket, a much younger Nigerian who has experience, has integrity, that is chosen under a very transparent and a credible process that is acceptable to members of that political party will defeat Tinubu.
Both the top ticket and the VPs.
You have asked this question before.
Yeah, I'm asking you again.
Yeah, but sorry, you see, at my age and stage, I'm supposed to promote unity of Nigerians. I'm not supposed to make divisive statements. And I believe that if I go now to mention my sentiment, I will be dividing Nigerians. Because the weight of what I would say to the ears of many Nigerians is not going to promote the unity we are looking for in the opposition. So I will reserve that to my chest. But I think that we have so many people in the opposition. And let me just whisper this to your ears, and maybe those Nigerians who are listening. The tendency of even a dark horse
Imagine.
to fly the ticket of the opposition is very, very high.
Really?
Yeah.
A dark horse.
A dark horse.
Someone who is not on the radar at all.
It has happened in Senegal now, when the opposition faced this type of situation. Yes. Because Tinubu has not played the trump card of what he's going to do with the opposition. He's not only destroying the political parties, no. You cannot destroy the political parties and leave the opposition, idle. What will you be engaging them? It means they will now fight dirtier. So he's going to lock us all.
You're sure about that?
Oh my God, he's going to lock us.
Are you not afraid?
Afraid of what? I've been to prison before. I was detained during the Nadeko with former President Obasanjo in just prison. So it's not a strange place to me. But this is the trump card, so that he can emerge on challenge. Yes, on challenge. So should this happen, you are going to deal with a situation where the person who will bear the card of the opposition will remain a dark horse. Even at the ongoing negotiation, a dark horse also is most likely, because we need to evade Tinubu's radar. So, you know, like I said, we operate like Iran. Yes. We blinding the radar of your defense system before we attack. So the tendency of a dark horse is very, very eminent, because all these major gladiators are already being targeted by Tinubu.
We'll wait with great anticipation. If the Supreme Court verdict goes against ADC in 1 minute, what's the option? Final question. In 2023, the youth demography, very, huge number of Nigerian youths of voting population, they came out en masse because Mahmoud Yakubu, Professor Mike Igini, Festus Okoye, they were everywhere saying, no, your vote will count, your PVC is your power, your this and that. They went to mosques and churches, but the youths were massively disappointed. What will you tell Nigerian youths in 2027? Speak to Nigerian youths. Do not lose confidence.
The Nigerian youths are even more mobilized.
Are you sure?
Yeah, now. But they have learned their lessons. Okay. They were mobilizing themselves and making noise. And anybody who is eating a sumptuous meal should not be talking. So they learned that. The Nigerian youth also have realized that their future depends on fighting for it, not negotiating. And they see 2027 as a threshold, watershed of this their dream. Because all this generation of grandparents, this is their last card. So, if Nigerian youths are adamant and they abandon the political space, they will be into the greatest tragedy of their lives, because these grandparents will leave a system that will designate them as Nigerian slaves, not Nigerian citizens, and they will serve their children. So the youth are aware of this. The ADC offered a better space for the young people. The Deputy National Secretary of ADC is a 28-year-old young person who is holding that big position.
Deputy National Secretary?
Yes.
28 years old?
Yes, about 28 years. She's from Borno, Hawa, Yusuf. And she's doing very well. We have so many of such young people holding strategic party position. What is the mission? The mission is give them opportunity to prepare them for responsibilities. Because if we don't train them, even if we hand over responsibilities to them, they are not going to perform optimally. Yeah, they are going to learn on the job, and a lot of time is going to be wasted. So for the Nigerian youth, 2027 is either 2027 or never.
Nice place to anchor, Comrade Minister. Nice having you once again, and I'm sure we'll see again.
Well, thank you very much. You are the only person who has this magic of just smoking me out of my house anytime.
Hibernation.
Yes, yes.